We're so excited to have our design team member from Tombow, Adrian, from who's also Studio 80 Design, teaching this colorful fall floral lines class today. During the class, you're going to be learning how to make your line drawings pop with some of our dual brush pens, mono drawing pens, and our Fudenosuke brush pens. If you have any questions during the class, just feel free to put them in the chat section, and I will do my best to answer all of them. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Adrian to get us started.
Hello. So happy to see everyone. I love seeing where everyone's from. It looks like there are a wide variety of people here, and I love it. I'm Adrian from Studio 80 Design, and I'm very excited to be teaching this class today. We are going to make this beautiful color, little floral wreath here. And I made this with the Cottage palette. And then other items you will need today are the mono drawing pens. Michael's carries a 3-pack, the 01, the 03, and the 05. And then the Fudenosuke 2-pack of dual brush pens. They come in 2 because there's different sizes. There is a soft tip, which is kind of like the black, got a black barrel. And then the hard tip has kind of a dark blue barrel. If you hold them right next to each other, you're able to see a little bit better. So I'll go into better explanation a little bit later when we use them as to the different ways that I like to use both of them. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Something else you will need is a pencil, an eraser, and then something circular to trace. A tool that I really like is this little guy right here. This is called the Helix 360-degree angle and circle maker, and you can just find it off Amazon. It's really cheap. It's like $4 to $5, but it's very handy. I use it all the time, and I use it to make circles in my projects. Other things that will work are like a CD or a bowl or anything circular that we're going to trace to make our little fall wreath here. So talking a little bit about the Cottage palette, I chose this palette to use today because it's got a lot of really great colors for fall. I swatched them all out for you. So if you don't have the palette, this is kind of what they look like. I really like the darker purples down here and the blues. It's got a few shades of green, and then it's also got some lighter pinks, and then oranges, of course, for fall. So if you put them all together, you will get a beautiful combination of fall floral colors. Okay. And then for the mono drawing pens, it comes in 3, the 3-pack comes in 3 sizes, the 01, the 03, and the 05. There's the 01. The line widths just slightly increase as you go up the different sizes. I really like the 01 and the 03. That's what I use mostly for this wreath. If you like a little bit thicker lines, then you can totally use the 05 in your work. Okay, so if you have all your tools ready, we will get, and I'll hold this. I know it's sometimes helpful to see the finished product and what I'm working on. So I'll kind of hold them next to each other. Okay. So if you have your circular object that you can trace on your paper, go ahead and put it in the middle of your page. And then with your pencil, just make a circle. I'm gonna make my circle, try not to make your circle too dark, just do a pretty light tracing. I'm gonna make mine dark though, so you guys can see it. I know it's easier to see dark coming through the camera. And I'm also going to get a little bit closer. Okay, so that is our first step. Now, for the mono drawing pens, these pens are not waterproof, meaning if you put these down and then you put watercolor or pens on top, they will bleed. So if you don't like that, these two brush pens, the Fudenosuke brush pens, these are waterproof. So if you have these and you want to use these, you're totally welcome to do that. We're gonna kind of work backwards in that we're going to use the dual brush pens first, and then we'll be adding the pops of the lines. You can see that there's little line details that I use the mono drawing pens for after we put down the color. Okay. So I'm going to start out by grabbing this dark, the color on the far right, this dark red color, 757. And we're going to start drawing in these dark purple flowers. If you want to practice your flowers before you put them down, this is kind of what they're going to look like. It's going to have 5 to 6 different petals, and they're going to kind of be triangular on the edge. Kind of like that. Okay. And then for the little blossoms, all it is just a circle. So if you're not familiar with the dual brush pens, the cool thing is that these are dual tipped. So you have a brush tip on one side. That's great for lettering and coloring. And then you have a bullet tip on the other side. That's great for like small detail work. Okay, so that's what our first flower is going to look like. And we're just gonna, the way that I do it is I work flower by flower, and I pick one spot and then I kind of evenly distribute them around my circle. All right, so we'll start right here. I'm gonna start on the inside of my circle, and I'm gonna create that flower. And it can, when you're doing this, you can totally overlap. You don't have to stay on the inside or the outside of your circle that you trace. It can totally go on top of, and we're going to kind of fill out this circle, and then we'll erase those lines after. So as you're going around, so for this flower, I made 6 petals. This one only has 5 petals. Just see whatever you have room for as you're going. You don't have to like force a certain number of petals. And then I'm going to make just a smaller one over here, just to the left of it. And I'm just using the very tip of this brush pen to create my lines. Okay, and if you want, you can color it in. Okay, So now I've got my first grouping, I'm going to look around and see where I want to put my next bunch of flowers. So I come up here, I'll put it a little up here. Just like that. And because I drew the petals a little bit smaller, I was able to fit in 6 petals. So whatever you have room for, don't stress about it. And then go ahead and color it in. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit farther down this time and make my next flower. And then just a small little flower next to it. I found when making floral wreaths like this, variety is kind of the key. So you don't want all your flowers to look exactly the same. You want to add some larger ones, smaller ones, some bulbs. And it'll look just more natural and less uniform. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit farther down. Maybe right here. Some little bulbs in here. Okay, and then the last grouping I'm going to do is kind of right here. So 2 flowers. And then a little bulb. So while we're working with these dual brush pens, we're kind of making loose flowers. I'm not too worried about making these look perfect, because when I go in with my mono drawing pens, I'm going to add some detail and kind of outline it. And so it'll create the form a little bit better when I use the when I use the mono drawing pens. Okay, so we are done with that 757 color. Next, let's go in. So those are our main flowers. I'm going to start with a green. I'm going to pull out these 2 greens right here. And from my swatch page, one of them is darker than the other one. Let's see. This should be the darker one. Yep, 312, 192. So a good trick, if you just look at the numbers, whatever number is darker will be the higher number. So it's based on the number system that Tama has used. So like down here, the blue is 526 because it's darker. So if you're ever, so the caps look pretty similar. So if you ever wonder which one's the darker one, just look at the higher number and that will be the darker one. A little tip for you. Okay. So now I'm going to use the 312 from the Cottage palette, and I'm going to start drawing these florals and stems and leaves in here that are attached to the flowers that we just drew. So I'm going to use the bullet tip for this side to draw the stems, and then you can either use the bullet tip for the leaves or you can use the brush tip for the leaves. It's up to you. Kind of just how much control do you want while you're drawing. Okay, so I'm going to draw my stem. I'm only going to pull it down right here because I'm going to be adding other greenery and leaves to this. So then I'm going to connect all the other objects from this floral family that I drew. It's all going to kind of stay inside that circle guide that we drew. Okay. So I have all my flowers, all my stems are going out on the left side because I'm going to make everything come kind of clockwise as I'm drawing it. So everything's kind of growing out to the right. Okay, so as I draw my flowers, I'm going to draw tiny flowers, tiny leaves under all the bulbs. And then I'm going to add leaves coming out on the stem. So try and vary the shape of your leaf and kind of the direction. You can add different shapes coming off. You can make them overlap because we're going to color them in. Okay. Now this is still my dark green color. This is still 312 that I'm using. I will use the lighter shade of green for a different color. So this is my dark green 312 right here. My lighter, what color is that? 192 I use for a completely different set of leaves. Okay. So we're going to start with the darker leaves first.
Hey, Adrian, if you have a second, do you think you could quickly just doodle a few samples of those leaves? Some people are just, I think they miss how to do that.
Okay, so this is my flower. Leaves are just going to come out like this. So we're going to make kind of different sets of leaves. These are kind of long and narrow. So there's that set, and then I'll go back in with the tip and I can color it in once I have that shape. So that's the first step.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so once you have them all outlined, you can go back in with that 312 and just fill them in. It's pretty easy with the brush pen. It only takes 1 or 2 swipes. You can kind of push harder to color it in faster. And again, once we're all done drawing in these florals, we'll go back in with the mono drawing pen and we'll add details and lines to help make the flowers and leaves pop. Okay, so while you're finishing up your leaves, I will show you the next set of leaves that we're going to draw. And they're kind of more rounded. So we're going to make our stem like this, and then they're going to round off at the top. Like that. And this is with our lighter color, the 192. Okay. Let's see if that works better. There. All right, so a little clearer. Okay, so this is our next set, and then we'll just color it in like that. Okay, so again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start in one section, and then we'll add various leaves around our wreath. Okay, so I'm going to start right here. And there's one. Okay. These are more rounded leaves. It's kind of fun just to add a variety of different kinds of leaves on your wreath. Again, I'm using the bullet tip to draw, and then I'll go back in with the brush tip to color it in. Okay. I'm gonna switch back to my Wi-Fi, sorry. Be black for a minute, they'll pop up. Okay, let's see if that works a little better. Okay, so there's my second set of leaves. Done, and I have 2 more leaves that I use in this wreath. And they use the 526 and the 992. So the 526 has just a set of 2 leaves right here that's also rounded. And then the tan color, I use just a kind of small bunch of pointed leaves. Okay, so I'll start with the blue, the 526. And this is kind of to help fill in any areas. See how there's like a blank area right here. There's some spots right here. So this is kind of my filler leaves that I use when I want to kind of fill out my wreath. Okay, so I'm going to start in the middle and I'm going to come out and draw in those leaves. Here's what those leaves look like. It's very similar to the last set. They're a little bit larger than this, and there's just kind of 2 to 3 leaves that I grouped together. Kind of just drawing them around the wreath wherever I have some space that needs to be filled in. And going back in with the brush tip to just color it in. So right now I'm using the 526. This is the blue color from the Cottage palette. Okay, so there's the blue leaves. Okay, so for the last set of leaves we're going to be doing, I'm using the 992. And it's the same, similar to up here. We're just going to make pointed leaves like that, 2 to 3 in a small little bunch like that. And then we'll just fill it in. Okay. So now I'm really looking for any of those bare areas. So like right here, I'm going to add in some leaves to help fill in any of those bare areas. Okay, so once you have them all filled in, if there's any extra places you want to fill in, the trick that I kind of use is I kind of blur my eyes a little bit. And if there's any like bare, kind of like thinner areas, like I'm seeing right here, so maybe like a thin area, maybe like on this side, maybe like right here. It's kind of a kind of funny, but if I just blur my eyes a little bit, I can see maybe where I need to add in a little bit more florals or leaves. I'm going to add some in right here. Maybe a little bit right here. Okay, so the last few flowers are more filler flowers that we're going to do. We have some berries and 2 sets of flowers. So for the berries, I am using 679, and these are really easy to do. All you have to do is draw little ovals like this, and then you can use either one of your greens. I use a darker one, and then we're just going to add in some stems like this. Pretty easy. Okay, so there's our berries. So, like on this side, I'm just going to draw little ovals. around. My dog just came in. They're not fine. All right. There's some berries. Very easy. Okay. So just go back in and just color in all those berries, and then once we do that, we'll add the stems. All right, add a few more. Okay, so grab one of your greens. I'm going to use the darker green, just so it shows up a little bit better for you on camera. And then you just add in those little lines and bring it back to the center of the circle. Making sure you connect all those berries so there's no floating berries. Okay. So we have two more sets of flowers. We will be using, they're pretty simple flowers. For these flowers, 772 and 993. 772 is my all-time favorite color. It's up here. I just think it's really pretty. So I'm glad it's in the cottage palette because I pretty much include it in all color palettes that I use, floral related. So the first set of flower is just a 6 petal, just really simple flower like that. And then with the orange, the 993, I just did a 5 flower petal. Okay, pretty easy. These again are supposed to go in to help fill in any areas that are a little bit bleaker. And they can go on the inside of your wreath or the outside. Try to mix them up a little bit so you get a little bit more variety. And these won't have stems. They're just kind of placed around the outside of our wreath. Okay, and then a 993. Okay. So we go back in, we can color them in. And if you want to, you can always go back in and add any other flower that we've made or leaf. If you feel like an area needs more of something. Okay. So there is our wreath. I'm going to wait a few seconds to make sure all the marker ink is dried, and then I'm going to go in with an eraser and erase that initial circle that I drew. Are there any other questions that I can answer while we wait? Real quick. Okay, so all my ink should be dry. I'm going to go in and erase. And the great thing, so this is the mono drawing eraser from Tombow. And the great thing about this one is it's really good at erasing pencil lines, even if it's underneath a marker. So it does a really good job erasing all those extra pencil marks. Okay, so now that we have the main flowers kind of colored in, now we get to go in with the mono drawing pens, and we kind of get to add some lines and some detail work to kind of make these flowers and leaves pop. So I'm going to start with my 03 pen, and this is kind of a way that I've evolved as an artist. So when I would go back in a while ago, when I would go back in with my monoliners, I would kind of outline every single leaf and every stem and every flower and everything. I've kind of morphed away from that into just kind of adding small suggestive lines, if that makes sense. So in this, I'll hold it up really close. It's kind of hard to tell on the darker flowers, but usually on all the flowers, I will outline them in the berries. And then the leaves, I will outline some of them. So if you look on this green leaf set right here, I've kind of outlined some of the leaves, but I kind of left the stem a little bit blank. Okay, let's see, where's another, this one too. So on this darker set, this leaf I didn't even touch with a pen, and the stem is kind of, see how the maybe it's kind of hard to see. The line is broken up into smaller lines, so it's not one straight solid line across the stem. There's smaller lines. Same thing here. See how, okay. Can you see that very well? I'll try to show you what I mean. So like on this, I'm not going to add, so before maybe I would kind of outline every leaf like this, right? And add like a center, which there's nothing there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. If that's your style and your preference, you can totally do that. I've kind of come up with a different style where I kind of do, I break up my lines a little bit. Okay, so it's not all perfectly outlined. And it kind of gives the suggestion of the outline shape of that leaf. It just makes it a little bit more natural, and that there's some shadows going in, some detail lines, and then other things are kept a little bit more soft. So can you see how this is a little bit more softer than this harsh outline right here? So depending on what you want to do, it's totally up to you. It does take a little bit of practice to kind of lift your pen up and do some of these smaller marks than it is to just do a solid outline. So whatever you feel comfortable doing, do that. But I will show you. We'll go in, we'll start with the flowers. Like I said, I outlined all the flowers. I'm going to start with the 03 and just kind of go in and just outline each petal. Of your flower. Again, you don't have to outline it all. I'm kind of leaving some empty space. Around my flower. Okay, I'm going to try to bring it down just a little bit. You guys can see a little bit better. Okay. Hopefully I don't hit the camera. Okay. So again, I'm going to go flower by flower, kind of like how we did the first time around when we're coloring it all in. Just go flower by flower. A great way to break it up, a line, is just by using like a little dot. So when you're drawing your lines, to break up the line, you can use little dots like that. You can make your lines. And you're kind of using a pretty light hand here, okay? Just a few examples. So it's not one hard, steady line like that. I'm going to kind of break up those lines a little bit to make it a little bit softer. Okay, I'm also going to be drawing in the center of the flowers just by drawing in kind of small little circular, just like that. Okay, that'll go in the center. Kind of add the centers of the flowers. We're going to add in those small floral details that we couldn't do with the large markers. Okay. I know it's kind of hard to tell in those darker flowers, so let's move to some of these lighter flowers. The lighter flowers, you can do a lot of outlining. You just pick your pen up a little bit while you're doing it and add some dots. When you're drawing flowers like this, I almost find like if you have shaky hands and get frustrated, it comes in handy when you're drawing flowers like this because you want them to be kind of softer lines, a little bit more delicate. I had carpal tunnel for a while and my hands were pretty shaky, and at first I got frustrated, but then I kind of learned to love it because it just gave me a different set of lines to use. And I particularly liked them when I was drawing florals. So if you have shaky hands, this is for you. Okay. So there's kind of our lighter, smaller flowers. I'm going to go in, let's do the lighter set of leaves. When I draw the stem, I'm going to break up that line. So I'm not going to draw one solid line, and then I'm going to generally outline the leaves. Kind of just give it an idea of an outline rather than a solid form. So I'll do a lot of my initial outlining in the 03. And I'll show you real quick. I'm going to use my 01, and I'm going to draw, this is what I use to draw the center lines for all the leaves and the flowers. I want a kind of a smaller, thinner line. And it's kind of more of a flicking line, so it tapers off at the end. Okay, and the same thing with the flowers. I won't spend too much time on these because I know you can't see them very well. But going to these smaller flowers, I can add the center of those using the 01. And these are just kind of scribbled circles in the center of the flower. They're not meant to be anything specific or that intricate. Okay, so that's basically what we're gonna do. We are running short on time. We won't have time to outline all the leaves, but just keep going with your outlining and then adding in small detail lines with your 01. And it's fun to kind of see your whole wreath kind of come to life, come together as it grows, leaf by leaf. With these smaller ones here, maybe I won't outline every single leaf. And I'll leave some leaves untouched, I guess you could say. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining me, guys. I hope you had fun doing this fall floral line drawing class. If you did a project and you post it to social media, make sure you tag Michael's, Tombow USA, and myself so we can see. Thanks for all coming. Hope you had fun.